Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Mouna Saquaque Show, a show that describes a variety of subjects through the lens of civil discourse. I'm your host, Millen, and today my guest is Mouna Saquaque. She is a best-selling author of the book, Who Am I, Where Am I, From a Human Perspective, and a spiritual seeker who has always been driven by existential questions. She also has a deep commitment to finding the answers to life's biggest questions. Mouna has translated her understandings into writings and meditations on life from a human perspective. She believes that the key to a fulfilling life is finding peace of mind, and that this is only possible through self-knowledge and a balance between making things happen and letting things happen. In her upcoming book, Back to Love and Beauty, she explores the theme of love and spirituality through a collection of 16 poems and illustrations done by herself. So, with all that said, Mouna, thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Milan.
Of course. So, to begin, I'd like to ask you, what inspired you to write this book, Back to Love and Beauty?
So, I normally think, study, and write about subjects of philosophy and science, the nature of reality, religion. And what I love about poetry is I can say it's a more subjective experience. I can say what I think, what I feel. I don't need any filter, any methodology. I just can be myself and be as subjective as I want. And I can say things that I know, things that I think, things that I believe, things that not have any root in reality, but still make sense to me. So that's why I like poetry.
Awesome. Yeah, I agree too. I think with poetry, it's a very beautiful way of writing because it's something that's unique, and I believe you don't really get bored of reading it because it's so different. Some books like nonfiction, or when I was at university reading some of those nonfiction books, it gets very tiring and you fall asleep. But with poetry, it's a very unique way of meaning, and you can kind of build off certain types of lessons that other people may not learn of. So I may learn something different than you, for example, in some poetry, which I think is really cool. Okay, that's awesome, though. I have to say, with your first book, Who Am I, Where Am I, From a Human Perspective, what inspired you to write that book?
I had a lot of questions that kept me awake all night. I wanted to know more about humans, building a standard model for all humans, and seeing how it applies to me, and how I can understand what it means to be a human, the subtle worlds, not only the physical world, but also emotions, thoughts, where do they come from, and consciousness, moral integrity, all those things manifesting and what we are, and just trying to find a manual to navigate better on Earth. So that's what motivated me.
Great. Yes, I must ask you, with everything you've written down, because it's times that I've written things down, it definitely expands my mind and I think more deeply. It's a great way to cope with stresses in life too, in my opinion. And I'm curious, while you were writing, did you come to any revelations yourself? Obviously these questions, there are no hard yes or no answers to, but did you find any meaning while you were writing, something that came to you in any revelations at all?
Well, I've had a lot of aha moments. I wouldn't say that it's done, like I have all the answers and the final answers, but I definitely understand more things, and it helped me build an emotional stability, a methodology to think through things, to dissect them before taking action. And it also helped me with the subject that I love very, 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 very much, which is time, what time is, how to to incorporate it, how to have a relationship with time, what is time, and this really, really helps me. So yes, I think that philosophy, meaning loving wisdom, the love of wisdom, also means every time you understand or get to know something new, you also have to stop and try to apply it to see if it works. So every time you understand or you have a new information that's better than the one you had before, and you apply it, this is how you build up a new understanding of life, of yourself, and how to move more joyfully, with a little bit more confidence, but also not taking things very personally, understanding what is part of life and what has nothing to do with you, the game, and what is your part and what you can have control over.
Yes, I think time is such a fascinating thing. It's something that some days it's slow, some days it's very fast. There was one saying I heard that the days are long, but the decades are short. And I think that rings true with a lot of people, how certain days, whether you're working or dealing with any types of stress, feels very long, but years goes by very quickly, as I've learned too. So I'm curious, what do you believe is like some of the biggest misconceptions with time? Or what have you learned most about time, generally? I guess whether it's from your writing, whether it's from your life experience, what's something that you've learned about it, and what other people can find valuable from your experience?
So I have a poem called Time. In my book, I have a poem called Time, and I think what I've learned about time is that you really need to understand Newtonian time, like you said, long days, short decades. You have to understand the objective time, the time that's physics time. You know, when you do a plank, 1 minute is very, very long. So you understand what is seconds and minutes and days. You understand this kind of time. When you understand it and you accept it, because some people have hard times accepting time. So when you accept time, it becomes your friend. And also, what I like about time is timelines, like trying to project myself into the future, not only myself, but as a species, like I'm thinking about humanity, I'm thinking about society, what timelines can be in front of us. And to be able to see the future, you have to be able to disconnect sometimes from the past, because if you want to jump in a new timeline, you have to change the causes. And so you have to be able to just stop a river and jump into another one, and it can be challenging to just try new things, be someone new, do new things. Your past can be crippling, and I also like the time in deep state, the idea of no time, like in deep sleep or in meditation, stop in time. And I also like very, very much. And I think it's very crazy that time and thinking, for me, time and thinking is the same thing, because we talk about the past and the future, but really we never experience the past and the future. It's all in the now. We are only thinking about the past or thinking about the future. And I reference a stone, which is a stromatolite. It's supposed to be the first rock where life has begun, you know? And so we know that, but in the present, this stone enables us to travel back into the past and to understand what happened. So I think it's funny that the past and the future don't have any physical existence, and that they only happen in our minds. So yeah, it's it's a very interesting subject, and it's very difficult to unify it and to just give one definition.
Yeah, that's true. I couldn't agree more. I truly believe close to 100% of our thoughts are about the past or future, because so often I know someone close to me who was telling me one time that she would go through moments weekly where should be completely in autopilot mode, like on a weekly basis, whether it's like doing her job, doing the chores, or cooking food, and to the point where you're almost not even thinking, like, do some exercise, go to sleep, and the day's gone without any real deep thinking. And the times that she would think deeply, it would be about anxieties about a future plan, or excitement about something in the future, or something bad that happened in the past. So it's very interesting, and I think it's very hard to not think about those things in a healthy way. Obviously, it's very easy to think about these things and plan, but where it becomes unhealthy is that's where it could be a struggle. And I think that's where meditation and prayer and those things really can be very helpful with that. So yeah, that's very, very interesting. And with your theme of existentialism, what's obviously that you had questions about it. What makes you think that people should dive deeper and to read about what's in your book, or to ask questions about ask questions for themselves about this type of topic? What do you believe is like very valuable in it?
I think it's a waste that people don't know who they are and all their layers and what's going on in their mind, and what built them and what is theirs, meaning what they have built through thinking and what they just inherited, and what's true and what's not. I think a lot of suffering would just go away by knowing more about yourself and knowing more about how you work. You will be just realizing and pointing out everything that's happening in your life and being able to just change it. Also, I think that some people have the question of what is my mission, or what is my purpose, or why do I exist, or some others think that their existence is worthless, which is not the case. So by knowing yourself, there are two levels to it: knowing yourself as the human being, and knowing yourself as you, as your identity, as the persona, and just trying to work those two together to have more meaning, to have a fulfilled life, and to know that you have a lifespan, and that there are things that you're supposed to do, that you're supposed to understand, that you're supposed to experience, whether good or bad. And I think it's very different when you wake up in the morning and you always experience hardship and bad moments and everything, but at least they are focused towards something. You know why you're here, you know what you're doing, whether you discover it or you invent it and decide it. And I think life is way more exciting and interesting. And you become and you love more others too, because you understand that they have value, that they are important, that they are worthy, that they just like you, that everyone matters, and that it's a beautiful adventure.
Yes, I truly believe that when people are more open with each other, at least when that trust is built and established, there's commonalities that you discover about somebody you never realized was even there to begin with, and which is obviously very important for any communication or relationship to thrive, in my opinion. Though I want to touch on what you said about molding identity and your humanity together, because I think that's a really interesting dynamic that isn't really talked about much, because obviously we're all humans, not much to surprise there. You look at yourself, you look at me in the mirror, like we're all human beings, no aliens yet, nothing discovered yet. But having your identity established, I think is really important. Like seeing how anxiety, depression, all these things that are on the rise, and abuse of substances and alcohol, all these things that people go to because of their lack of identity, in my opinion, not just for the enjoyment of the high. Now, that could be another discussion in and of itself. I'm just curious to hear what you have to say, though, with the idea of identity and humanity, how asking questions of existentialism drives those two together. Did you yourself mold your identity recently or from the writing, or was that established beforehand? Like, anywhere you'd like to start with that? I'm just curious.
Yes, discovering that you have an identity and that you are not an identity. You have an identity, and you look at this identity that you have. You are not this identity, you have it, and you see what has been superimposed on it and what is yours. And on the things that have been superimposed on you, there are things that you like you speak a language. You don't want to remove that. You are using it in your job, in your everyday life. You can communicate with it. So there are a lot of things that you've just been imprinted with and that serve you, but there are others that don't. And there are things that come from your heart that you are drawn to, whether because you like them or because it's a challenge for your soul to go and to dig that and to try to understand and maybe by dissolving certain things in you, you also dissolve things in your ancestors and maybe in humanity too. So I started with just trying to dissolve my identity, like. There is a poem where I say every night before bed, I say, I am not me, I am the I meaning just the formless, without identity. I am a human, I am consciousness, and I can be anything. And that helps a lot with healing the ego, understanding the patterns, knowing that you're not a victim, knowing that you can change things, knowing that you can, and people have a very, very hard time with that, with the understanding that they can change, because there is a resistance. Obviously, it's been like 10 years, 20 years, 30 years that you live in the same thing or the same persona. It's very difficult. I tell people, if it took you 30 years to become who you are, maybe it will take you 30 more years to become who you want to be. So isn't it worth it? Don't you want to do this work? And obviously it's not going to take as long. It's taking the time wants to manifest, so it's going to take time, but the time depends on your desire to change things or to become someone else or to be okay with who you are and to accept your beautiful story, even if it had pain or suffering or things that you didn't like. Or imagine you wanted to become a painter and now you're a doctor or whatever. It's just two different worlds and you're like, oh, I wish I was that. You make peace with your past, with whatever happened. It served a purpose and you can start something new, or you can even give up every childish dream. Even those dreams when I was a child, they're not relevant anymore. I want something new. I want something better. I want something exciting. I want to go to new territories, to see new things, to even the dreams that the ego keeps on saying, oh, you should have done this, you could have been this, even those dreams, they just come from a place of lack. And when you know yourself better and you are self-empowered enough to even give up on those childish desires.
Yes, and I agree. There's so many different things to look into with like this, comparing desires and who you want to be, because you don't want to work towards something for 15 to 25 years and then you realize, oh, this is not me. Because usually people have an idea of who they are, what they want to become, and I think it's really fascinating too with the idea of identity and who you want to be, because I think with the advent of social media or anything of that sort, I think it's very fascinating how people have a certain persona that they portray on social media, and in reality, they have a very difficult time being that type of person in real life. And I've discovered, like, some of the closest people in my life, they project a certain image online, and when I know them personally, there's a little bit more insecurities, a little bit less confidence with each other. I think that plays a big role.
Yeah, but it's okay to have confidence issues. It's okay to have insecurities. It's okay to even to want to hide lack of confidence and insecurities. I mean, we're humans after all. And sometimes some people play a role, and after some years they become that person. So it works for some people to just fake it until they make it. Not for everyone, but like I always think about self-confidence. Be confident, be confident. What does it mean to be confident? I am confident in making sweet water when I put sugar in water. So when I know something, or when I master something, when I have a skill, I am confident. But I cannot be confident just to be confident. There has to be, I mean, I just play games with myself. If I am confident, if I want to be confident in something, then I practice. I want to be confident in the gym, so I will go and work out for a year and 2 years, and then I will be confident. So confidence is just building something, building a skill, and having the right information. Don't try everything. Just try to follow people who have results. Like if you want peace of mind, you go to the most peaceful person and you stay around them and you ask them questions. If you want to be, a runner, you go to someone who runs every day and they're going to give you their experience and tools. So everyone wants to be confident, and you have the right to want to be confident, and confidence comes from knowledge, experience, failures, mistakes, and yes, it's experience.
Yes, I agree with your point with experience forming confidence, because, well, you used that in your in the beginning of the description I read about how self knowledge and a balance of letting things happen, making things happen, leads to a peace of mind. And I think you need to have some peace in life to have confidence too. Because if you're not peaceful mentally, I think it's very difficult to have confidence in both ways. It's very hard to make that to be a reality. So, given how, given all that you said, is there any? I'll actually ask this. This ties right exactly what we're talking about. So you state that the key to a fulfilling life is finding peace of mind and it's only possible through self-knowledge. So learning about certain skills and developing yourself mentally, physically, spiritually, and having a balance between making things happen and allowing things to happen. So with all that in mind, what's something for you that has been the biggest shift in going from wherever you used to be, because I don't want to characterize that because I don't know you personally, but whatever that used to be in the past to who you are today and who you want to become, or who you're becoming, because I believe the process of becoming that person is maybe even more valuable than the person you will become in the future.
Yes, just and I talk about this in a poem. It's meeting consciousness, like being conscious of consciousness, being aware that I have emotions, that I am not emotions, being aware that I have thoughts, that I'm not my thoughts, being aware that I have a body, that I'm not my body. So when you are able to observe your behavior, your thoughts, you are an observer, you evaluate, you see things, and I think a shift happens in the way you think, in your methodology, and the way you see the world, you see yourself, and you're not scared anymore to go the wrong way, because sometimes it's even good to go the wrong way, because you know you're going to catch yourself. And going to the wrong way makes you know yourself better, because something that was hidden from you will arise, and you will see a belief or a behavior that doesn't serve you, or anything that's not in alignment with who you want to become show up if you go to a wrong way, and then you catch yourself up and you understand why you have this behavior, not this one, and you do it with joy. You try to heal. You don't talk to yourself trying to make yourself guilty, or you just try to put some compassion and love towards yourself, understanding that the first part of your life, it was just, it was not you. You're not conscious. You were just, like you said before, autopilot, working on autopilot, just automatic behaviors, thoughts, feelings, and a lot of things that you were seeking or looking after were just automatic. There was no plan, nothing. And it's beautiful too, because you got to discover so many things about yourself, about the world, about people. And when you get to consciousness plus being nice to yourself, to your past self, like I'm fine with all my mistakes, my flaws, everything. It is what it is. Then you can move forward to more meaningful, fulfilled life, high vibe, being in a good mood. Most of the time, you're gonna get bad days, but most of the time you're in a good mood. And if you have a bad day, then you have tools to just bounce back.
Yes, and I think I appreciate the points you make about confidence and what you were saying about that, because confidence definitely doesn't mean you never have bad days or you never have any insecure moments or thoughts, because everybody that's, I believe, is very honest and humble will, unless they're lying to your face, but they'll tell you that, I used to have a lot of insecurities, and we all still have thoughts that come up here and there, but it's a matter of continuing to practice what you're practicing, whether that's healthy habits or whatever you enjoy to do, hobbies. For your case, writing or other things I'm sure that you do in your life to allow confidence to grow in you. And I have my activities as well. And I think that's important because we all have those doubts. And it's interesting because there's been moments where I didn't feel like doing something after work or didn't really want to, but after doing it, and I knew it's something I enjoyed doing, even though I was kind of had a lazy mindset about it. Afterward, I was much more content. Right. I was much more content, and it's fascinating where that comes from, because initially it's like you're thinking to yourself, I'm exerting more energy, so why would this make me feel better? But in reality, it truly does. And I try to tell some of my friends that, my family, all these people in my life about it, because I think it's important. So yeah, I think those lessons are very key. And also just having time with yourself is important too, I think. I don't know if you mentioned that, but I just thought of that now. That idea of silently thinking to yourself, because I think it's so, we live in a world that's filled with lots of stimuli, lots of things where in the past, if you were alone, that was it. You had a book and that was your own distraction. But nowadays we have a lot more things with the internet and much more entertainment devices. I just had a lot just come to me there. So I'll ask you this. One thing you mentioned to me before this kind of script that you gave me before we just started speaking today. I don't know if you wrote about this, but you mentioned the idea of dealing with grief from a loved one that's passed away and dealing with that process. So I'm curious, is that something you've dealt with your life? And we don't have to go into detail if you don't want to, but that's completely up to you. So you don't have to go into as much detail as you want, but wherever you want to go with that, I'm just curious. Is grief something that you've dealt with, whether it's seeing a friend deal with it, seeing someone else deal with it? And if so, how did they or yourself become resilient in that moment?
So I'm mainly talking about believers that believe that there is an afterworld. So I don't know what others think. Maybe they think that it's the end. That is the end. I'm not. I don't think that is the end. I think that is the beginning of a new journey, way more exciting journey, nicer journey. So when someone pass away. Obviously, if you know those things, it helps to know that they are continuing their journey and that they are going to be happier and in a better place and having fun and just if they finished their mission, just be like, I'm not coming back again. I'm very fine. I'm leaving. Bye, everyone. And so it's the one that stays on Earth that has to deal with passing. So also, I think that the separation is a very big, the wound of separation and abandonment is a very big wound in humans. And I think that it's cosmic. We've always thought that we have been abandoned the first time you go to school. But even before that, like if you believe in creation, you know that there were people who brought us here and that they left, and we always think that we are alone. Like people struggle with loneliness, and we are never alone. And so when someone passes away, you know, when you know that they are still here, their mind is still here, their teaching is still here, their love will stay here even if they're dead. Like if you think about it, Newton is still with us. We talk about Newton so much, Plato, Aristotle, all those people, because they've been giving humanity at large something. Why wouldn't someone who is close to you wouldn't he or she have the same status, like being present all the time in your mind? What would he say to this? What would he answer to this question? So I'm 100% sure that those people are still with us, at least their minds. They're not physical, obviously, but they're still with us. And just respecting the fact that they are gone and that they stayed till the end, that you are going to do the same and stay in the game until the end and go and join them is something very relieving. I mean, there is a point in your life where you have to be clear about yourself, and I'm talking about those who believe in the non-physical, those who believe that after this life there is something else. Do you believe it or do you not? Do you think that they're in a good place or not? So yeah, that's something that I had to work on too myself, and I discovered that I don't just believe those things, that I know them, because it was quite easy for me to deal with it. So I wanted in my poems to help others do it too. But obviously you have to be one of those who believe in non-physical subtle worlds, something that's going to happen after this world and even after this world.
Right. Yeah, I think I agree with your assumption or your thoughts on that, because I think when one believes in afterlife or a certain religion or a certain way of life, there's, even though it's very hard because you're more the person that, you know, loved one that passes away, you have to at least attempt to celebrate the life they lived and what they brought in the world, what they brought into the world, whether that's whatever the accomplishments they've had, their family, if they had a family, and all those things. And it's funny because I was listening to an interview recently about someone saying that they may make YouTube videos and schedule them for the future in case they pass away. Kind of like fulfilling a legacy.
Cool. That's a cool idea. I like it.
Right. Yeah. But it's funny because I've noticed how, so it's fascinating how ideas have evolved, because I'm sure like people like Plato, Aristotle, Socrates, Dostoevsky, all these and hundreds more that I can't name right now in this short time we have, all those people I'm sure weren't thinking to themselves that my ideas are going to be written down here, but hundreds of years later they'll be remembered by you and me. You know, I just never. And now we had like ideas of people having YouTube videos and videos to last forever, and who knows what will happen in the next few decades, what that memory will be of that. And I think that's why it's very cool that you're writing poems about existentialism, love, beauty. The most recent one you just wrote, or upcoming book that's going to come out soon if it hasn't come out already. Because I do believe that writing is a very personal thing, a very personal activity, but writing publicly is completely different because it's for the public. And I'm curious, what drove you to have that confidence to write publicly? Because I know a lot or a few people that have shied away from that.
I don't know why. I don't publish everything I write. Like I am currently writing a book on time, and it's a nightmare. It's really a nightmare. So I'm trying to build bridges. I'm like, if I can't make it coherent enough, organized, I'm not going to publish it. I want to publish it, but it has to be like understandable by people. So that's the difficulty, really, publishing things that can be understood, not necessarily ultimate truth, but more understood, making sense, reasonably subjective, even if it's not objective. And I like publishing. I have no problem publishing, but I don't publish everything, for sure.
Yeah, I'm glad you don't. And that's not even me saying, oh, you should publish everything, because I think it's important to have certain things personal. Because I truly believe there's like a certain language to writing that only you understand, because you own your own thoughts, and certain people in your close life that if they've seen your writing personally, they understand. But someone like me or someone else that I know would look at your writing and maybe be like, well, what's this? Like, I don't understand. Like, even if they understand the language, it's like, whoa. But it's very fascinating, because I've written just private things privately when I was younger, and it's an interesting thing, because sometimes I look back at my old notebooks or like my old like writings online, and I'm thinking, wow, like this is much more detailed than I imagined. And my father actually encouraged me to write about certain experiences, like about certain things with friends or family from 4, 5, 7 years ago on trips that I've been on. And it's so much more detailed than a picture, because obviously I see a picture and I'm like, oh, that picture's cool. But when you write down, when you read it, the details that you've done, and I'm like, wow, I didn't remember that from the picture, and it's cool to
maybe you have
relive.
A good imagination too. Not everyone has a good imagination and can portray things so that they look as good as a picture or better.
Right.
You have a gift.
Thank you. You as well. I mean, with the poetry, it's awesome. And I think a lot of more people have more talents, or I don't know what to say, gifts, talent than they realize. And I think the idea of not feeling like you want to do it, I think is holding so many people back, because so many people have no idea what they're capable of unless they try something new. And that's why I really commend you for writing this, because this is not something that you have to do, that you need to do. Unless you do. I don't want to correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of times it's not like a super like a needed thing you need to do, but you learn so much more. And it's just interesting, because like even with the interviewing other people, like I learn a lot more about life. I learn a lot more about other people's lives, how to improve myself, skills, and all of these activities. It drives your confidence, whether you realize it or not. And after you do it, then you realize, oh wow, I feel pretty good.
You discover you're human. You're vulnerable, but you're not fragile. It's weird. It's weird to be a human, and it's it's a very interesting discovery. Like, and sometimes you open boxes in your mind, and it's like unlocking a game, unlocking levels, and the more you're chill, peaceful, and you're not too much in your head, and you try things, and you're okay with failing, you're okay with being mocked off, you're okay with humiliation, you're okay with whatever comes with the thing. You just keep going, and there is a day like that you're like, oh my god, where have you been all these years? So you just trust. You have one life. You trust the process. You trust your intuition, which is wrong 50% of the time, but you still trust it.
Right.
You keep going, and it's fun, and it's
Yeah, and it's so fascinating because I think, like with you writing poetry or the activities I do, you tap into something that you've never really discovered before, because going through life and the duties that are kind of necessary for you, whether that's a job, going to school, and doing the things you need to do, that's one way of doing life, and it's important to learn and educate yourself. But the creative aspect is not really tapped into when you're an adult or young adult or older, because you kind of tap into that imaginative persona of yourself when you're really young, when you're like a child, and it's like, oh, the child's playing and having fun in the park. But I think it's important for everybody to have joy in the simplicities of life too. I think that's what's beautiful about young kids playing around. It's like, wow, like they enjoy the mundane things of life. It's like, it's just the simple things of throwing a ball, or very simple things, and I think we can all learn something from that.
Yeah, and in the other book, the Who Am I, Where Am I book, I talk about this process of a baby coming to earth and biting his hand and knowing, oh, it's my hand, and everything he sees, he puts it in his mouth because he wants to make one with it. What are you? What he wants to discover everything. Like if you see babies, if you let them 1 hour alone, they're dead, they're going to throw themselves in the balcony, or they want to discover everything. They want to go everywhere. And it's, oh, I am on earth. I want to see everything. I want to discover. I want to know what's going on. And I think it can be dangerous. So you have a time where you learn how to detect danger. And then you have to reconnect to that, I am here to discover things, to discover other humans, cultures, maybe, I don't know, if you're interested in science, geology or astrophysics or pottery or poetry or painting or whatever, or how fast can I go? For some people, it's how fast can I swim, like Michael Phelps, or some people who come here to discover the next level of what it is to be a human.
Yeah, that's true. There's so many different things, and that's the beauty of. There's a lot of negatives that are online and of the online world, and that's always talked about. But I think the positives sometimes aren't talked about enough, where you can see other people like online easily. You can follow art, travel, paintings, everything. Like you mentioned, millions of thousands, tens of thousands of different topics, and it's very easy to find inspiration from somebody, because you can follow somebody, subscribe to somebody, and it's very cool to see that from the world nowadays. And that's something that was never really existed before. Before, if you wrote a book and you never saw any book reviews online, there was no Amazon, there's no nothing. It can feel very lonesome to do that. Mouna, thank you so much for coming on the show. I greatly appreciate it. And for our listeners watching / listening, where could they find you or follow your book or anything like that?
So my poetry book, is launching the 25th April. And my website is mounasaquaque.com. I have Facebook, Mouna Saquaque, and I've just started Instagram, Mouna Saquaque too. So you can find me there.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining me, and it's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much, Milan. Thank you.
If you enjoyed that segment of the Nolan Sharma Show, consider subscribing and clicking the link in the description section to follow the show on all of your favorite audio platforms. Also consider supporting the show if you really enjoy my mission of having powerful conversations through civil discourse. Cheers.